So this might be wrong, but I think this is it. I figured out the Celtics game plan, or Brad Stevens' game plan. Loved the hires he did, just going out and finding veteran guys to get around Mazzulla, because I still think Mazzulla is a guy that we stumbled into despite him being like the most tucked away on the shelf, like, oh, this guy could be a coach someday, to have to burn through 4 head coaching candidates in 3 years, and all 4 of, we'll say, excluding Mazzulla, anybody would take Brad Stevens as their head coach. Almost anybody. Almost anybody would take Ime Udoka if he wasn't alleged to be whatever he did. And then Will Hardy, I feel like, is, oh man, I'm so bummed that I have Will Hardy as my head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Will Hardy?
Will Hardy, yeah.
My brain went to a musician named Hardy, and it's been a crazy couple weeks. But anyway, I loved all those hires. Now we're on Mazzulla. But I think what Brad is doing is, I think this is finally going to be the year when I don't love it, because in my football brain doesn't go, oh, you were the third, debatably second best team in the NBA. I not taking anything away from the Miami Heat and Heat culture, but I feel like if you play that 7-game series another time, I don't know if Miami wins. If you play 2 more times, I don't know if Miami wins 2 of, like, I feel like it just was a perfect stars, and Miami got it done, and that's all that matters, is you got the wins in the win column. But respectfully, I've just never seen another sport where it's so nonchalantly, oh yeah, just blow up when you were the second or third best team in the entire world at playing basketball. Yeah. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, but I guess, is there a comparison in football of like a team that's consistently been in that same spot like over and over and over, and they like, there's like growing concerns or growing like rumblings with their second best guy, whether he wants to stay long term?
Well, in football it's harder because it's not a second best guy. I get it's a weird deal, but anyway, I guess the whole thing is, I think what's going to happen is everybody keeps talking about the centers because Isaiah Stewart was in Celtics rumors. I think they're going to blow up all the guards that we have. I think Marcus Smart might be gone. Peyton Pritchard said he wants to leave. Totally justified, because he's a guy that could be a offensive leader for a bench unit for a lot of teams. Maybe not a championship caliber team, but for a lot of teams, he would get real time being the leader of a bench unit, and he was just not used at all. Yeah. So I think he'll probably be looked at. Devin White's the guy that I know that a lot of people have asked about, even before Derek White. Oh my
Devin White plays for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, right? As the middle linebacker. Man.
I think you've done that before on this show.
I'm sure I have. There's going to be a lot of those this episode's listeners and viewers and everything. My brain is somewhere else, but we're going to be here. It's just fried. But anyway, there's just going to be a lot of shifts up, and what makes me kind of bummed, I don't know what happens with Jaylen Brown. I can't figure it out. Like, I've thought all these things. I'm like, do they go like with the Wizards and like send him to Washington and get like Kuzma back for cheap? Not for Brad. Brad Stevens, I think, is so far out on Kyle Kuzma. But like Jaylen Brown, especially with his playoff performance, is in this weird spot where he's not worth what he's worth. But there's like this giant shelf of guys that like, oh, they're way older. Is that worth it? Or they don't want to play in Boston. Is that worth it? Like, it's just this weird where I don't know where to put him, because I think he's worth the second tier where you package him with a couple firsts and you could go get that upper echelon of guy.
You're talking about Jaylen Brown?
Jaylen Brown, yes.
Yeah.
But then with how he played in the playoffs, that's raised some concerns for people of just like kind of not being present. And I think people are discounting the fact that he had a cut on his shooting hand. Like, oh, yeah. Like that just doesn't get brought up. Not that it excuses him disappearing and having the easiest second man job in the NBA of like, you had a bad game. It's okay. Jason Tatum probably didn't. You both had a bad game. Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum's fault.
More importantly, he had a cut on his only dribbling hand.
And that's the Kyrie curse. That'll never go away. Yeah. That was Kyrie that did that to him. And you can't. Also, probably the increase of usage. Like, we need you to go be less of a on-ball defender. I just don't know. Like, where do you go? and I just don't like being the team that's going to, the CBA is happening. And I think it was CJ McCollum was like, for all the people saying the CBA is terrible for players, wait till the good stuff comes out. That's for us. Yeah. And who knows what that's going to be. But in terms of a team like the Celtics that have all these contracts coming up that are going to be like one of the first big teams that gets quote unquote nuked by this new CBA, I'm not looking forward to it, to say the slightest. Because once I realized how uneducated I was on it, I kind of did a deeper dive. And yeah. Anyway, we never did a proper intro because I just started ranting about the Celtics before recording. So
yeah,
put a pin in that. We'll come back. Welcome to, I don't even know. Is it the Rodney Harrison episode? 37?
Rodney Harrison.
That's football.
We're on 30. We're on 39.
39?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Because we did
Lawrence Maroney, Patriots legend.
We did Ron Artest for 37.
Oh, 38. That makes sense because football numbers.
Yeah, 38 I did solo, and I did Saban Lee, who's like barely in the NBA. And then 39, do you want to take a guess who it is? I only have two guys that I could find really as like people I considered doing. One of them was Dwight Howard. It's not him.
Like Sixers and Lakers Dwight Howard?
Yeah.
Who else
like
wears 39?
Is just a number that nobody has worn except for this guy that I'm about to say, or you're about to guess. Only on his rookie
Maroney.
deal. Oh, it was on his rookie deal, and it was on
recent?
The Trust the Process Sixers.
Oh, there's no way. The only 39 that's stuck in my head is Golden Gophers football legend Lawrence Maroney.
Okay,
and that's not right because he wore 39 in New England.
I think I can get you to guess the player still, though. So he started with the Sixers, then he went to the Thunder.
Oh,
then
Nuggets legend Jerami Grant?
Yep, exactly.
He only wore the 39. That's wild.
Yeah, his first like 3 seasons, I think, with the Sixers, something like that. But yeah, Jerami Grant. So hello and welcome to the Jerami Grant episode of the Hoop Theory podcast, aka episode 39.
There we
are. My
name
is Logan Wortman, and I am once again joined by my good friend, Jacob Roth. Jacob, how's it going?
It's going good. Feels good to be back. Brain's a little scrambled today. I don't know if you get the outro cut. We did a whole thing before because I was just ranting about the Celtics. But anyway, whatever order you digest this information, sorry if I say the wrong name, jump over to football, or just talk about something completely unrelated. But I'm back, and I'm excited to be here.
Yes, we are excited to have you back. And also very excited to say that the Denver Nuggets are officially NBA champions. Feels pretty great.
Oh, it should. I texted you because I'm a football. I've said this a bazillion times, I feel, but New England Patriots are my football team. I jumped in at a very opportune time because they drafted Bo Ruud in 2008, and then they kind of had a lot of success after that, if you didn't know. So I've been familiar with this euphoric feeling of like my team did it. And I texted you. It was like, it's the second best feeling that I've ever felt outside of holding my child for the first time. And I mean that. I'm married. The wedding day was way more stressful. So I just was like, it's a great memory. Top 5 for sure. But the 28-3 Atlanta comeback in my buddy's basement, that was an all-time, that's an all-time moment for me that'll never go away.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure.
Holding my children for the first time, like, oh, this is my flesh and blood. That's different, but nah, that championship hits different. Also, I'm convinced that championship parade alone convinced Nikola Jokic to play till he's 70, maybe older, because he like, not even like the intoxicated or anything, but you could just like, I don't know Jokic personally. I've seen him once in person in an Olive Garden, kind of a big deal. Yeah. But it was. Have we ever even told that story?
I don't think so on the podcast.
That's a great story. You should tune in for on episode 69. Just kidding. I don't know when it'll come, but so he just was like, I wanted to go home, and I almost sent you a text that like, does he even stay for the parade? And maybe that's why the parade was so fast, because I feel like most of the time championship parades go like a week later, but it was like we won on Monday night, parade's on Thursday morning. It was just bang, bang, bang. I was like, okay, Jokic must have not wanted to go home, but then his not safe for work quote was like, I didn't really want to be here for the parade, but I want to keep parading. It was good.
Yeah, it was pretty great. Yeah. And so apparently he was trying to get home on Sunday. There's like so tomorrow, just for context when we're recording this, there's like European horse racing circuit that's going on in his hometown in Sombor.
Oh,
so it's like a big deal. Apparently, is why he wanted to get home, but like it wasn't just because he hates like that. I feel like a lot of people have reacted to it like he hates basketball or doesn't enjoy it, and a lot of people say that. I don't think that's the case. Like I do think he enjoys a lot about basketball. I just don't think it's like the only thing in his life, you know?
I think the hoopla around basketball is the least appealing part of basketball to him. And that's all playoff basketball is.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the hoopla around.
Yeah.
My food for lunch just got here. I'll be right back.
Okay. No problem. Before we get into anything, I guess, please make sure to like and subscribe if you're watching the YouTube version, the video version on YouTube. And also follow the feed if you're listening on Spotify or any of the podcast platforms. Rate the show if it allows you to rate it. I think Spotify has that. But yeah, do that. And please consider joining the Patreon at patreon.com/hooptheory. And then also, if you would rather not do like a monthly donation thing, and you still want to support the show, then there's another option for you. You can just do a one-time donation at buymeacoffee.com/hooptheory. And just FYI, both the links for both those things, Buy Me a Coffee and Patreon, are both in the show description and the episode description, wherever you're listening to this. So check that stuff out. Also check out the shorts on TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook, I think, and Twitter, Instagram, all those places. But yeah, let's get back into it. That was a little bit of an ad break while Jacob was getting his lunch. Now he looks like he's struggling with his coffee. But yeah, the Nuggets are officially champions. So let's get back into that. I watched Game 4 in Denver at the DNVR bar, and that was a lot of fun. There was a crazy atmosphere. But the only thing I kind of regret is like choosing Game 4 to go to instead of Game 5, because Game 5 was like way more low key. Like it felt a little anticlimactic because like I was not around any Nuggets fans or anything when we did end up winning it. So it was weird. It was kind of it was hard to process, I guess, in the moment, but it was still like crazy. So that was great. Game 5 was like not a great game in terms of anybody shooting other than Jokic. But it was still like close, which made it more entertaining, all the way to the end. But I guess we could go over Game 3, Game 4, and Game 5 a little bit, just since the last episode that we've put out was my thoughts in between Games 2 and 3. So in Game 3, it was the first game in Miami. The Heat were up, we were tied 1-1 going into Game 3 because the Heat stole Game 2. And then, so we go in there. Malone had some adjustments to that weird Heat zone that was messing us up, and that Spo added some very different changes to. It started off as like a 1-3-1 in Game 1. Game 2, it was more of a 2-3. Or wait, no, I said that the other way around. It started off as a 2-3 in Game 1, and then in Game 2, it was like a 1-3-1, but that started in like the full court as man. And then it looked like a 2-3 at first. They disguise it as like a 2-3. And then the guard who's opposite of the ball he drops down to the center, like the middle of the floor around the free throw line. And the two wing guys rise up to make it like a 1-3-1. And it's just a very confusing thing because it was like, it didn't seem to matter who was in what spot other than Bam was usually the baseline guy. It's just like they would man up with their guys in transition to try to stop the play in transition. And then wherever they ended up on the court, that's just kind of where they picked up the zone. And like the main thing about it was that you couldn't really tell what it was until like halfway through the play. Like it just took it kept taking the Nuggets so long to get into what they wanted to get into was the main reason why it was effective. Because it gave us such a little shot clock. It essentially turned our shot clock from like 24 down to like 12 seconds. And yeah, it was hard to get Jokic the ball. They made it as hard as possible for Jokic to get the ball exactly where you want a player to get the ball when you're going against a zone, which is around the free throw line. So they had a guard fronting Jokic right there, and they would have Bam pinched up on his back, basically, to not allow any like room for error on that pass if they're trying to overthrow him. And so the adjustment that Michael Malone made for game 3, or I don't know if it was Malone or if it was David Adelman or if it was Jokic himself, I'm not sure. Could have been any of those 3 guys. But in game 3, they, instead of trying to get him the ball there at the top of the key or around the free throw line area, they just were feeding him the ball in the post down on the block. So he was posting up Bam, who's the baseline guy. And because they're in a zone, he's allowed to get like way deeper than he would in a normal man-to-man before he even catches the ball. So he's already really close to the hoop when he gets the ball. So like he's going to score like almost every time when that happens. So that caused the the Heat's zone to collapse. You know, people had to come over and help on Jokic. And so that's what just allowed all of those open cutters and open kickouts for threes, which is Jokic's element. That's like where he wants to play. So that was amazing. That's why game 3 was such a masterclass. Jokic went off for 32, 21, and 10, which was the first 30-20-10 game in NBA Finals history. And it was also only the 5th 30-20-10 game in NBA playoff history. And Jokic has 3 of those, 3 of the 5. I think the only other 2 people who have had a 30-20-10 playoff game are Hakeem Olajuwon and Tim Duncan, if I'm not mistaken. And then Murray, on top of that, had his first ever 30-point triple-double. And it was in a finals game, 34, 10, and 10. So it was the first time 2 teammates had both have like a triple-double in general in the finals together. And it was the first time in NBA history in any game, regardless of regular season, playoffs, finals, anything, that 2 teammates both had 30-point triple-doubles in the same game. So just a wild like combo that they like these 2 guys have put on throughout the playoffs. It's been one of the best like 2-man runs, I feel like. This can rank up there with like the best one guy run of all time, Jokic. And then also it's like one of the best duos as well. Because Murray had, even though people say he didn't have that great of a finals, he still was like the 3rd or 4th player ever to average 20 and 10 over the entire final series. He turned it more into like a playmaker than he's ever been on the biggest stage, which is pretty crazy. Yeah, that was game 3. And then in game 4, that was the first game that Jokic got in foul trouble a lot, pretty early, because game 4 and 5 were like that. Sorry.
And that's one thing that kind of shocked me with like the foul trouble thing is like, that's just a Heat thing to do to get a guy into foul trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it was just Jokic. And I guess I stayed silent a little too long. The Jokic 30, 20, and 10 thing was the most casual, like insanely historic stat line that everybody just brushed off.
Yeah.
They were just like, it was just Jokic doing Jokic things, but
yeah. He had an even better one just 2 weeks before that in the Lakers series. He had 34, 20, and 14. I think something like that.
If I'm going to die and someone's going to have a 30, 20, and 20, I think it's Jokic. If like that has to happen before I die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might be.
It won't. That's insane. But that's just crazy because that means you'd account for, let's just say that every single one of your assists is a 2. You're still accounting for 70 of your team's 120. That's wild. But
I think Luka would be the only other guy I could see doing that.
And that's if they get rid of Kyrie. That's another team that you could break down and just be like, what? Anyway, we've got a lot of off season left in my brain, just like going towards but so like that 30 and 30, that was like a game that Miami just was like, okay, we're not winning this one. This is an impossibility. They're just both that 2-man game was an all-time thing just to watch. And then I didn't go to game 4 out in Denver with you guys, but that game was a little bit different. You were just going to go into it, but like my biggest thing is like, what was the difference of the atmosphere, like being in the pit with all these other dudes that are all like, maybe like how crazy was that?
It was really crazy.
And it wasn't like, I mean, game 5 was definitely the quote unquote game that was like, it was an ugly slosh fest elimination game. Nuggets kind of always had control. Not always, but never felt like they were always in kind of comfortable positioning.
Yeah, we were never out of it.
It was ugly. It was an ugly game because it's an elimination game, and there's never really pretty elimination games ever.
Yeah,
what was that game 4 like?
Game 4 was great. It was a wild atmosphere. It was just insane to see like that many Nuggets fans around me. Definitely more than I've ever seen other than actually being at a game. It kind of felt like that, being at a game for the most part. There was a guy at the table next to us that had like one of those 90s rainbow Nuggets flags that he was just waving every time, like, something crazy happened. The whole bar was like, whenever MPJ would hit a layup or something like that, we would all go, Mike, 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 Mike. And Bruce, it would sound like a boo, but everybody's going, Bruce, which he had a huge game 4. I think really it was like Aaron Gordon's game, the first half. And then it was like the Bruce Brown game for the second half. Like they took over and really put us over the top that game, especially with Jokic being in foul trouble, which it was clear in game 4 and 5. That was basically the Heat's game plan, was like, let's see how much we can get away with, like how physical we can be. And Jokic has always kind of had that problem where when he feels like he's being played really physically and not getting like very many calls, he just gets mad and he does stupid things. Like he gets aggressive. So he makes pretty bad decisions with like frustration fouls type of thing. A lot of those, which it's almost like the kryptonite. I don't want to say kryptonite, but it's like the weird downside or bad side of like the Jokic is just like this galaxy brain, like, really smart basketball guy. But if he gets angry, he just like all of that goes out the window.
He's the whole,
yeah.
He he's Bruce Banner most of the time. And then all of a sudden he just like turns his brain off and just gets mad and red and angry. And then does the exact same like hand thing to the ref.
Yeah.
Where his like hands are straight out like this.
Yeah. You can tell he's European just by the way he like his body, body language when he does that.
And it's like flat hands. No, it's you haven't seen it in a while where he's really gotten like mad.
Mm-hmm.
And then
game 5, it was like the refs were trying to extend the series. I really believe that.
I texted my buddy. I was like, I'm not gonna get but pretty much the gist of the text was like, I'm all for like good basketball and stuff, but like this is beyond Scott Foster level of series extending. Because I'm like, you're in Denver. I'm just like, what?
It was insane. Like I don't usually believe in that kind of stuff, but I was like, there's no way. Especially the one that set it over the top was the foul on Jimmy Butler on the corner 3 with like a minute, or like it was pretty late in the fourth quarter, where his foot kicks out. He kicks his legs out and he kicks Aaron Gordon in the crotch. And then they call a 3-point foul, and then they even review it, and they still stick on. Like they're like, nope, Aaron Gordon got in his landing area, which did not happen at all. Like Jimmy's
and there's
legs
like a
came
difference.
Back
and that's like, this just needs to be reviewed because they needed to get rid of the scourge of the James Harden, Trae Young. Like they needed to fix something.
Yeah,
and I know that was like a straw man case of like, well, this is why that rule is bad. Because, like, there is times where, like, if you just, like, fall down into dudes. There was another one during the Celtics Miami where Al Horford, I think, fell over, and then Jimmy Butler, like, his landing spot shifted a foot to the left, so his, like, foot clipped Al Horford on the way down.
Yeah.
Same exact thing. But, like, they just need to find some sort of middle of, like, how do you set what the landing zone is? Because it moves. It moves how people used to like lean into the contact to get it. Now they just move their landing zone to force contact. And like, there's only so much you can do. Like Aaron Gordon was like almost intentionally comically far away from Jimmy Butler with his hands up.
Yeah, exactly. And he just got.
I was shocked.
It was insane. Like the thing is, what you're saying about like the landing area moving. Like I feel like they did a much better job, for the most part, this season in officiating that, where like literally what that play was right there, what Jimmy Butler did, I've seen that called as an offensive foul more often than I've seen that as a defensive foul. Like when a player kicks his legs out that much. Like I've seen that called the offensive foul all the time. But like it was, and the thing is, even if you want to call it like a landing zone violation thing, like he kicked his legs out, but he didn't even successfully like get him to be in his landing zone because he kicked his legs out, brought him back, and kind of landed back in like his normal landing area. And Aaron Gordon wasn't even close to him. Like
because he was reeling from getting kicked in the nuts.
Yeah, it was just confusing. Like I'm just in like, especially on the replay, how they stuck with the call, and it wasn't like, oh, there's not enough evidence to overturn. Like Mark Davis just straight up was like, no, this is what happened. It was his legs were, you know, he was getting in Jimmy's landing zone or whatever. It was like that is not whatever.
It was wild, like because even on the call, the guys were like, they saw it once and they're like, well, I don't get called, and then they just kind of like. Because it's this weird broadcast thing where they can't crap on the refs because I think the refs are like right there. So they like don't say anything. But like immediately when they saw the first replay, they're like, oh, that's going to be either a no call or an offense. Like that's not on Aaron Gordon at all. And then immediately they just like went silent after it came out. Again, they were just kind of like, yeah, but we got a couple minutes left. The finals basketball here.
Yeah.
It was just. Yeah, it was interesting to say the least.
I think Mark Jackson, or one of them at least, after a bit of a pause, was like, "That I think that's a bad call or something like that."
Yeah, but, no, it was definitely an uncomfortable-ish situation to listen to because there's some of those where you're like listening, you're like, "That was weird, that was clunky," but it's okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of like the other thing that I would like to bring up is we talked about last episode I was on would have been 37. We're on our test. Meta World Peace. It was Ron Artest episode.
Ron Artest, yeah.
So the Michael Porter Jr. thing, he had some very nice moments, and he did a really good job playing his role. But like he wasn't the force that I intended. If you would have told me that the Nuggets are going to win this year's finals at the start of the year, and like their fifth best player in the playoffs will be in a series in the playoffs would be Michael Porter Jr., maybe even lower than that. I would have laughed because that doesn't make sense. Was it just Miami, or what do you think happened?
Oh, I just think, I mean, MPJ. Did
he just buy into his role and do nothing? Because like
do nothing,
not nothing, but like offensively, he was kind of
he couldn't shoot. His shot was broken. His shot was broken. That was the thing. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, because it was scary. Like it wasn't like, oh, they're giving him tough looks. He was getting.
Good
pretty
looks.
Darn nice looks, and was still just building a house with bricks. It was bad.
Yeah, a lot of the shots were like rimming out. I mean, there were some shots that looked bad, but a lot of them were rimming out. Just none of them ended up falling. It was, other than in Game 5, he did finally get a 3 to go. The Game 5 was by far his best game. I think he had 16 and 13, 16 points, 13 rebounds, something like that. And he had a stretch where he was making some buckets. One of them was a 3. He took a couple to the rack. That stretch is really kind of what bolstered us back into the game in the fourth quarter, or gave us the lead back basically. And yeah, his rebounding has always been awesome. He's been by far, I think, the second best rebounder on our team behind Jokic. I think he played his role defensively, honestly, other than game 2, he was pretty rough. But since then, after that, he was kind of back to getting, the right rotations out there and holding his own when switched on to. So I don't know. I think I'm still really happy to have MPJ. I'm not mad at him at all. And I don't know if you saw, I sent it to a group text, but the interview that he had after Game 5, did you hear that? He basically was like, my shot was broken all series, but I don't care. I don't care if I scored like 0 points this whole series. Like, I'm a champion. Nobody could tell me anything.
I do remember that now that you say it was right after you were talking about coming out of Missouri. He had a very bad rap, and he might have had a bad headspace coming out of Missouri too. Of like, I'm this guy, but the Mike Malone like bullied him into a mold.
Mm-hmm.
Seems to have worked with MPJ pretty well, as he was a very willing to take on that like. Just his role.
Yeah.
He's like, sounds good. Also, kind of not giving. We've given the Nuggets a lot of love until Jimmy Butler in the fourth quarter of that game 5, or was it third quarter?
Oh, well, what happened?
Jimmy Butler had the greatest first 2.5 series in the playoffs to turn it the second half of the Celtics series outside of game 7, little rough. And then he looked just like regular season Jimmy Butler the entire Nuggets series outside of that little stretch. And I think it was in game 5.
Yeah.
Because game two was the Bam Adebayo game where Bam was just cooking on a level that was unforeseen. I might be mixing games up.
Bam had a good game, I feel like, every game, but 2 is probably might have been his best. Yeah, I think
he opened up 16 points in the first 12 minutes. Or, I don't know why I didn't just say quarter, like an idiot.
Max Strus had four threes in the first quarter. I think Duncan Robinson had 3 or 4 threes in the fourth quarter.
The Michael Porter Jr. struggle bus game was game 2, which is fine.
It was everybody's struggle bus game, honestly, on defense. But
I just feel like
KCP fouled 3 3-point shooters, gave up 9 free throws.
Yeah, that is rough. But I just feel like that was the thing I talked about a lot after game 1 is Michael Porter Jr. denying to all these streaky 3-point shooters for the Heat. That was a big part of how they won game 1 the way they did. And then game 2 that didn't happen, and it was that's why I said MPJ. But it just was interesting, not to take anything away from this run that Jimmy Butler had, but I was kind of bummed that he was this unstoppable force, and then he just turned into kind of not that he didn't have these huge moments and wasn't good. He was still a great basketball player, but it was just interesting to see how he
his shooting regressed for sure
by miles. And then I think it had to have been game 5 where he just started to do Jimmy Butler things. I'm wait, are they not going to be able to close this out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but it was.
We were playing. It was weird because we were playing them the same way Milwaukee was, playing Jimmy, going under on every screen and playing drop coverage on him, but that was a smart thing to do against him in this situation because he wasn't shooting well from deep 2 to 3 range.
Those moving threes that only Steph Curry can do, no one really can do that well. Yeah, he's finally started missing those.
Yeah, exactly. So that was lucky for us, but also I feel like we were overplaying him a lot during the series. He looked bad this series, but his playmaking by far, this was his best series. Because I feel like in game 2, that was one of the big reasons why those guys, Max and Duncan, were hitting those threes was because we would double Jimmy. Whenever he was 1-on-1, we would send a double at him. And so then he would, just kick it off to an open shooter. And there was just so many open threes that they kept getting in almost every game, really. We survived that. We got better at the rotations. Game 2, we just the rotations to recover were not there. In game 3, they were there, but we were still giving up some open 3-pointers that was hurting. I honestly feel like if we would have just played Jimmy straight up, I'm curious to see if we would have had played them even better than we did. Because ever since he rolled his ankle really in the Knicks series, he hasn't he's had a few moments, but he's not been what he was in the Bucks series.
But he didn't have games. He had these stretches of crazy, but never,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I'm also curious to see, and I feel out of all the guys that won't probably come out of how serious it was and it'll be a big headline. I might be wrong, but usually I feel LeBron was playing with the torn this. Oh, this was being played on. Every guy plays through stuff, but I just feel Jimmy Butler's a guy that it won't be oh, I actually had a high ankle sprain and was drugged up out of my mind to be able to play it all. I'm sure that just won't come out even if it is true, whatever it is, but it is, unless I've missed something in the hole I've been in the past 2 weeks. But I feel not 2 weeks, but week, whatever.
He's been denying it. Somebody asked him in the post game if it's been bothering him, and he was like, "No, that was not a factor," or something like that.
He just was, a stereotypical expected Jimmy Butler Heat culture type of answer.
Mm-hmm. Did you see LeBron's post today or yesterday or whatever that was?
Wild. That was just out of pocket. Wild.
Because
I didn't get it.
Do you know why he said that?
No.
Because Michael Malone made a joke on Pat McAfee where he was like, "Speaking of the Lakers, I have some news to break. I'm thinking about retiring." Michael Malone said that.
That's wild.
Like the thing is, Michael Malone and LeBron have always been like friendly, and like they've always been friends because Michael Malone was he was an assistant for the Cleveland staff back when LeBron was there the first run with Cleveland. So like I don't know if they're not cool anymore because of that or something, but it seemed like that's what he was mad about, based off of just reading. Like I don't know what else he would be talking about, you know?
Yeah.
Like he says in the quote, he says like, I hear that I've been on your mind so much, or you've been talking about me so much, or something like that. It was like, okay. I just honestly, I really hate Lakers fans. Like I've never been like that with most things, but like I'm really starting to just like genuinely sports hate Lakers fans.
Oh no. Well, you just have to like, understand that most of them don't know what's going on.
And they think everything is about them.
Yeah.
Like every time, like they don't understand why Michael Malone was mad, like talking trash about them and why, and then like now every time, anytime like anything happens that the Lakers are brought up or anything, they're always like, oh, we're living in the Nuggets head, or we're living in Michael Malone's head rent free. Like, oh, he really cares about us so much or something about that. Like, it was like he made a comment and, after game one about how the Nuggets went up 1-0, but the whole media narrative was all about how the Lakers have figured out the Nuggets. And he was like, I've never
second half Rui Hachimura thing.
Yeah. He's like, I've never seen that before, where a team goes up in the Western Conference Finals and the whole media narrative is about the other team. And so he's like, so we went up 1-0, put that in your pipe and smoke it. That like triggered a lot of Lakers fans. And ever since then, they've been like, I don't know, bringing it up all the time. And they bring it up as like, oh, you can't talk trash to us because we have 17 rings. And it's like,
no, you don't. Either claim the players or claim the rings and don't cherry pick. This ticks me off to no end. 17 rings. Is it 6 of them are not even in LA? They're all in Minneapolis?
It's either 4 or 5.
5. Okay, whatever. I'm overdoing it. And I don't even care about the Celtics have 17 thing. But don't be like, oh, well, we kind of sort of don't really claim that we were in Minneapolis for a long time. Mm-hmm. But we'll keep the name and we'll keep the titles. Thank you. What? Mm-hmm. What?
Yeah, I think it was 5, actually. I think they have 12. Pretty sure it's 5 titles. But regardless, yeah, even if it was 12, even if they're flexing like, oh, 12 rings to 1, same point. I'm still like, that's not what we're talking about. We swept you in this Western Conference Finals. That's the point. And also they always bring up, they play both sides with this, with LeBron, where it's like, they're like, oh, you can't say he's not the best player in the league because he's 39 and still doing this. And then when he loses, when he gets beat, everybody's like, he's 39. Congratulations. You beat a 39-year-old, It's like, you can't have both sides of that. Like,
congrats, you beat a 19-year-old Jason Tatum. One of LeBron's rings doesn't count.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's the same exact flip side logic. That's so dumb. Yeah.
Exactly.
Also, if you're going to build your team where your 39-year-old is your, like, only saving grace, get a new GM. That man's avoided enough blame. Pelinka has been blameless of this whole explosion since the bubble championship, and he's just kind of ducked and weaved, like, all of the blame that got thrown at a bunch of other people, but, like, oh, we've got this team with, like, this really nice, like, defensive core behind these 2 superstar offensive pieces. Let's blow it up and make the Banana Boat crew. Let's just do it. Let's go full offense, full vet, and then have to backtrack, get the coach fired, find a new coach that does almost the same exact thing, respectfully, to Darvin Ham and, Frank Vogel. They're like eerily similar. They kind of just exist on that team.
But, they're good defensive-minded guys, yeah.
But you can't do anything defensive-minded where you're like, hey, Carmelo, I know that this might not be your thing, but I would appreciate if you could become a KCP-level lockdown defender. What?
Yeah, that was the problem last year for sure. I actually am starting to become a Pelinka defender a little bit because it seems like this is what I've heard. Like all the moves that they've made this year to improve, that was all Pelinka. And all the stuff that's been going on before, he's been making LeBron happy. Like with all the moving out people to get Russ and get older.
And that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like in terms of like, it's not like LeBron was going and finding, we need to get Lance Stevenson a job ASAP. Like it wasn't like guys like that. It was just his, for lack of a better term, his buddies.
Yeah.
Who also happen to be pretty good basketball players, but like.
Not what they needed. Not in the roles that they needed.
They didn't need. Big fan of Austin Reeves. Guess what? Alex Caruso fit the role better. And I guess Austin Reeves was a way cheaper option. But
and they do different things. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
I just was like hustle white guy. That's what my brain did. But
yeah, Austin Reeves is like a star for them almost now.
Yeah, they're probably going to be their like most like we need this guy back, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Respectfully, to Austin Reeves, that's crazy.
Yeah, no. I mean, if you would have told me a year ago that who would you rather have between Austin Reeves and Tyler Hero, it was like an actual conversation. Like that's pretty crazy.
But is it? If they're on different teams, is it? If Austin Reeves is a Miami Heat legend,
I don't know.
Tyler Hero's for the Lakers, is it?
Are you saying that Austin Reeves wouldn't be good on other teams?
Not as good, and he would not be in this crazy LA market that we have both just expressed our disdain for.
You know, I was kind of on the same opinion as you.
Just a thought, not a strong stance. Don't need to call me a big brand stan.
Yeah,
not to assault. Just a thought.
Yeah, no, I get you. That's how I always felt about Austin Reeves too throughout this whole year, up until really the later in the season, then the postseason, and then especially the Western Conference Finals. It's like Austin Reeves is really freaking good. Like he handles things for that. He's just like a really tight ball handler. He's not a 3-and-D wing. That's what I always described him as. Like
that's just not it.
That's not what he can do that, but he is a ball handler. Like he runs pick and rolls and he's like efficient at it. It's pretty weird, but that's what he is. I would much rather have Austin Reeves. I don't even think that's a question. Much rather have Austin Reeves than Jordan Poole right now.
Yeah. By a lot.
So, yeah. But anyways, what were we talking about?
LeBron.
Yeah, I think he's 38. I've been calling him 39, but he's 38.
He's going to be 39 the next time he plays professional basketball.
Oh, Pelinka. In December he turns 39. I'm pretty sure.
It's December?
Yeah, his birthday's like December 29th.
Oh, the GOAT Tom Brady's in August. Sorry, wrong sport.
Yeah. In August?
December 30th.
December 30th. Well, okay.
He's a young blood. He's barely 39. Or barely 38.
Yeah, 84.
I guess 6 months. 6 months into 38 is pretty.
Yeah, 1984. Him and Kid Cudi were born the same year, same calendar year, in the same city. Oh, well, he was born in Akron, I guess, but that's basically Cleveland. But yeah,
that's going to get a lot of people from Akron upset.
I mean, isn't it just a suburb? It's not even like a Lincoln Omaha situation, right?
No, I think it is a Lincoln and Omaha situation.
Oh, really? I thought it was part of like the Cleveland Metro.
I think it is, but it's like far enough away that it's like maybe it won't get that many people upset.
Yeah, but
it's not like I guess I don't know. I don't know the demographics, but I feel like it's far enough away that I've always heard it described as like two different places.
City. Yeah,
like a Gretna, Omaha.
Well, Gretna is definitely in the Omaha Metro.
Barely.
I don't feel like, yeah.
Gretna's like a ways down the interstate, or down the highway technically, but
yeah. But it's like there's like Gretna extends into like there's my neighbors. Spoiler alert, or not spoiler alert, but I'm like just airing out where I live. In Millard, I live in Millard, and right next to me,
have Gretna.
Yeah, 2 blocks down from me is Gretna address, but like the same neighborhood.
It's wild. Just because like Gretna, what Gretna itself is like not. There's a bunch of land in between. There's not just constant houses.
Yeah, Gretna's shaped also really long. It's like tall.
Oh, tall boy.
Yeah, and like the part that everybody thinks of as Gretna is just kind of like the outskirts of it that's on the interstate, like with the outlet malls and stuff.
Well, no, because that's what like Gretna was, I think, for a long time.
Yeah.
Before it exploded.
But you have to drive for like at least 5-6 minutes from there to actually get to where houses and stuff are, to where like the residential area is.
Yeah. There's a National Valley Park in between Cleveland and Akron.
Oh, okay. I can look this up later, but Yeah, the other thing I was going to say about Pelinka, I guess, was like, even though I was just defending him a little bit, the thing I'll still blame on him is the AD trade. He still gave up way too much in that trade. Because like, obviously, I'm not saying it didn't end up working out. Like, obviously it did. It got them a title, but there's no way that's how much he had to put into the deal to get Anthony Davis, because Anthony Davis was forcing his way out from New Orleans. He had the same agent as LeBron, and like Clutch, the guy who like he basically runs the Lakers almost. And then Anthony Davis said that the only team he wants to go to is the Lakers. And his dad came out with a quote saying that if AD gets traded to the Celtics, which is one of the other teams, and on like the AD sweepstakes, yeah, he said that he won't play there and he won't re-sign there because he only had 1 year left on his deal. And so that should give the Lakers all the leverage in the world to make a deal. Like, they shouldn't have to give up nearly as much as he's worth, but they ended up giving at least as much as he's worth, basically, because they gave up Kyle Kuzma, Alonzo Ball, not Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball. So the best two of their three young guys. And then Josh Hart, who's another really good role player. Every single pick that they had available, they gave up.
Was one of those picks Zion, or was it Zion? One of those picks ended up being Zion.
Well, it might have been.
Okay, which also...
That might have been the Pelicans pick.
Zion is not going to be a Pelican for a moment longer. Apparently there is turmoil down in the Big Easy because it was quoted as he has no relationship with his teammates.
Is that what it said? I didn't see that.
I saw that it was little to no relationship with his teammates.
I've always heard CJ say that like he has things to work on to be be like a leader, but like they're still friends, I thought. But I don't know.
Well, that's also the vet on the team thing to say.
Yeah.
Let me find it. From what I've been told, Zion has not been around the team so much this last summer, but that is not very different than the way he's operated in the past. He has not made it a priority to be around the team as much, and he's sort of worked out on his own. There's definitely not a type of relationship that you'd like to have between a star player and a team. He also doesn't have a strong relationship with his teammates. From what I'm told, as you like to see, now that's not a prerequisite for success, but as you look to consider to trying to build bonds and moving forward, that is something to consider, and that being according to Brian Windhorst, obviously the most knowledgeable source on player relations in the NBA.
Yeah.
And then the big thing is Mark Stein reported that the Pelicans have talked about shipping out Zion for Scoot.
Yeah, I have heard that.
To go get that pick.
But I've also heard Brandon Ingram being the guy that they're... Or I've also seen deals where it's like... I just totally forgot his name. The young guy, shoots threes, Trey Murphy. Trey Murphy and Herb Jones, and basically a bunch of picks for the Scoot Henderson pick for the second pick from Charlotte.
Is Zion worth it though? Like, I get what he does on the court, but how many games has he played in his entire career?
Is Zion worth it for Charlotte? Is that what you're saying?
No, for anything. Like for Charlotte,
his contract.
Yeah, like how many games? That's worth looking up. How many games has he played? Has he played a full 2 seasons in the NBA in 5 years?
I think so. No, wait, no, I don't think a full 2, because that would be
no. I'm saying, has he played 160? He's only played 114 games in his career.
I was about to tell you. It was around 100. I was going to say
he's drafted in 2019. We just closed the door on the 2023 season, and he has not played He hasn't played 1.5 seasons.
Yeah. It's been a little bit over 1. It's been like 1 in a playoff run, basically, if he went to the finals.
And I'm not saying that those 100 of those games have not been this guy. I get it. 90.
I mean, every game he's played, he's been amazing. He's looked great.
Every's a relative. Never dealing superlatives, my friend. But anyway,
more so, I feel like you like more so. No, as much as you can say that about a basketball player. Yes, he's looked very, very good in the time he's been on the floor. He's like an unstoppable. He's like a pocket-sized Shaq with he's literally Blake Griffin's athleticism.
It's just 114 games in 4 seasons.
Yeah, that's the concern.
That's like
for
just
sure.
over what football players play in 4 years. If you count preseason
games. If you took a snapshot at Joel Embiid's career around this point, it would probably be pretty similar. And he ended up winning an MVP.
Zion's not winning an MVP. I'll get a tattoo.
Who's to say?
Me, right now.
That's what I'm saying.
Never time MVP.
Okay, but I'm just saying that if you look at how Joel Embiid has bounced back from his early career struggles with being on the floor, being healthy, could we see at least a comparable level to what Embiid has accomplished?
I'm going to look. Because the first 2 years,
he didn't play
he didn't play at all the first 2 years. 0 games. Joel didn't. Still got to 94 games in the 4 years. After not playing for 2 of them.
Yeah.
And so one of them they knew was coming, and it was the same foot injury.
Jones fracture? Yeah, that's the same foot injury that Zion had. They had the same broken bone or same fracture.
See, I didn't know that. Yeah.
That's based off my. I don't know. I know for
sure
sure
right.
that Zion. I know for sure that Zion had a Jones fracture, but I think that's what Joel had also. And it's the same injury that Bill Walton had that destroyed his career, but that was forever ago. And now we have better.
Well, that's what's also crazy to me is dudes are back from an ACL. If they tear it game 1, they could play in the playoffs. It doesn't happen, but
yeah, I don't think it's that
no,
insane,
ACLs are crazy now compared to what they used to be.
Do you mean ACLs or do you mean meniscus or something like that?
ACL, how fast guys bounce back from ACLs. That was obviously being dramatic.
Who's bounced back faster than 9 months?
Football, I have no idea.
Oh.
I'm just in my brain guys will tear their ACL and then if it's the right type of tear, maybe it's not full. I don't know. They're just back already. And you're that's crazy.
Oh yeah, I mean that's what Jamal's been out with for
his ACL.
Yeah, for that whole season and whole playoffs before that. Yeah. So that was 13 months, 14 months, I want to say, that he was out for ACL, which was more than normal.
That was played very correctly so. Worked out for him. They played it pretty slow and casual.
Yeah. And it's also fair to say, I don't know, not every ACL tear is probably the same, Yeah. It's hard to gauge.
Also, repairing an ACL on, Derrick Rose is an example of a guy whose ACL is that needs to be built a little different if he's going to play how he's going to play compared to if Steph were to tear his ACL. I feel like they would just have different demands.
Yeah, for sure.
On their legs and knees and things of the such. But anyway, that's just we've been all over the place. We kind of gave people a warning at the beginning that this is just going to be scatterbrain.
It's been a good conversation, but there are some things I want to hit on before we get out of here. And we don't need to do the trivia game just because I want to talk about basketball.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we talked about MPJ, the interview and stuff. Oh, okay. This is the narrative I wanted to bring up, which was some people, not even some, I see a lot of people doing this. I feel like this time has taught me more than ever to just ignore people that say things that I want to argue with, but I'm just I'm not going to. Because I see a lot of people talking about how the Nuggets finals run this year was the easiest of all time. And
thank you for bringing this up. It's so crazy.
Yeah, and all they go based off of is the seeds that they faced, and I don't know. It's just such revisionist history to me because it's if you rewind a month ago. There was so many people in comment sections. I was seeing that people were saying that the Nuggets could not win. There was no way the Nuggets were going to make it. And they knew that what laid ahead of them was basically what happened. They knew we were going to face the Suns. They knew we were going to face the Lakers at a certain point. And even when that was in front of us, they were saying, no, the Nuggets can't do it.
Is this Warriors team the best 6th seed we've ever seen? Is this one of the best 7-seeded Lakers teams that we've ever seen come out of the 7th seed? So now that it's convenient that it looks like it's all these low numbers that the Nuggets rolled through. Oh, it's whatever. It's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
What? Okay. Yeah. So if you sent the Celtics up lambs for slaughter to get beaten 5, does it look that much better than if it's the 8-seeded Heat, who were probably a better team at the time? But you know what I'm saying? Thank you for bringing this up because I saw it was Colin Cowherd was the improbable Nuggets run. What was improbable? They had a should-be MVP.
Yeah. Yep.
They had a team that is built to win in the playoffs.
Yes.
Not this offensive flashy. It's just kind of, anyway.
Like we've been competitive in the playoffs without our second and fourth best player, if you want to call him the fourth or fifth best, whatever.
I'm just kidding.
I'm not going to do that. I'll say fourth. I think he's fourth. Our second and fourth best players. Like, we've been still competitive in the playoffs the past 2 years. Like, why did you think that we wouldn't be a real contender when we got those people back? It just doesn't make sense. But I saw that JJ Redick had this note or this tidbit, which was there's apparently in this playoff run, the Nuggets have faced a record-breaking 81 All-Star selections upon the opponent teams. So obviously most of those are from LeBron, but 81 All-Star selections total from the teams that the Nuggets have gone against. And then another record-breaking one is the all-defensive selections. It was like either 22 or 23 all-defensive selections for players that we went against. So it was.
I get those, but I hate those. I know why
it doesn't. It doesn't necessarily mean much, but at the same time, it's like it's enough to tell you that this wasn't the easiest path to the finals ever. It couldn't have been.
No, you could argue that the 5 rings that George Mikan won for the Minneapolis Lakers might have been easier, as they won 5 of their first 7. I looked it up right now. That's why.
Mm-hmm. Won 5 of their first 7, yeah, and there was only like 6 teams.
And then he retired. Then they struggled to sell tickets so bad after he retired. A guy that they barely claim as a part of their franchise history. And I might be actually going overboard on this. More of Lakers fans might claim George Mikan than I give them credit for. But I feel like you never hear about all-time Lakers, George Mikan, one of the first, not even one of them, someone that was labeled the first superstar to ever exist in basketball.
Yeah, he was, yeah. Just the first all-time scoring leader.
Brushed over.
Or the first one that held it for a long time. At least I think George Mikan had it until maybe Kareem even.
Maybe. But anyway.
Wilt probably passed him. Yeah, I think it was Wilt.
But yeah, anyway.
But yeah, his jersey, the gist of it is his jersey's not hanging up in crypto.com arena or whatever it's called.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
That's insane. Oh, man. That's...
yeah.
Think how crazy that is.
It is crazy.
If you have that, that's literally the equivalent that if Boston would have been like, oh, we can't make it work in Boston, we're gonna go to Miami. Bill Russell's not in the Rafters. That's how stupid that is. It's almost parallel.
It's almost that. Yeah.
It's a little bit different because the eras are there's that. It was that weird before, but it's the same idea.
11 rings versus 5, but yeah, it's the same. I get what you're saying.
Concept of an older player from an era before that you don't recognize now. And then also, nobody brings up, Lakers only had 5 into the 70s. After Mikan left, it took them 15 years to get another one.
Yeah.
Not saying that it's not impressive that they got in the past 12. They all count. They're all great. Mickey Mouse ring and all. But I'm just kidding. That was more of a joke to poke at people. But it's just a level of craziness to me to be this integral piece of basketball history that could arguably have awards named after them and is this giant deal. And if the NBA were we're going to retire George Mikan's number across the entire league, I'd be okay. I wouldn't be well, that's just stupid. I'd be that's kind of a weird name to pull out of a hat, but that's cool. Whatever. It was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously it wouldn't happen now. It's pretty late, but
yeah, but I see what you mean. I see what you're saying. I agree.
Man, this has just been Lakers hate for no reason. They're just kind of catching these strays after getting swept in the playoffs, but they deserve it.
Yeah, and I'm not going to flex on it as it was a straight up sweep because it was a competitive series. I'm pretty sure it was the 4th closest. I might just be pulling 4th out of nowhere, but one of the closest in terms of point differential sweeps of all time. Because the total point differential was 23 points or something like that, even though it was 4-0. So it was a close series. But, and yeah, the other thing is people saying that this isn't a great Jokic run or individual run. So just looking at this finals run, it was Gobert, Ayton, AD, and Bam Adebayo were the 4 big men that Jokic had to match up with each round. And if you were to just pick the 4 guys, just pick, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 guys that you would want to guard Jokic in a playoff series, I'd say at least 3 of those guys are in that. because like Bam,
like
it depends on how you phrase the question. If you want to phrase it as just to guard Jokic, then I think it's you say Gobert, Ayton, and AD would be 3 of the top 4 or 5 probably. But if you rephrase it as who are the best defensive bigs in the NBA, like Bam would be added into that group, and Ayton might drop out of it. Like, but
the way that Bam played, like, yes, those are out of all of the like. Okay, we have the entire NBA's roster at our disposal to try to slow down Jokic. The fact that you hit 3 of the 5 names for Jokic alone should mean that. Like,
it's crazy that he still was able to do what he did.
In systems you can't control. Like, you can, but you can't count that into, like... Because, like, yeah, there's systems, I'm sure, that the Nuggets were like, we don't want that system coming at us at all. Defensively. You know what I mean? But, like, in terms of just, there's mano-a-mano, man-on-man, you couldn't have... Prime Dwight Howard. Okay. Whatever. Yeah. Like, there's prime Shaq. There's all... But, like, in terms of right now, 3 of the 5.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean... That's what Gobert has always been compared to, is prime Dwight Howard in terms of his defensive ability. And like people crap on Gobert a lot, but I think Gobert genuinely did the best job guarding Jokic this entire playoff run. I think AD was a close second, but Gobert, I think he did the best job.
If there's any world where you're trying to tell me that Timberwolves team goes head to head with any of the other teams the like Nuggets played and wins more than 2 games, you're crazy.
I agree. Yeah,
people forget that the T-Wolves beat the Nuggets once.
Yeah,
and it wasn't, and they didn't get destroyed either. It was there was a couple. It was 2 ugly games, the loss, and then 2 competitive games. Is that what it was?
In the Timberwolves series, the game we lost was pretty bad, and the 2 of the games we won were also really close. One of them I think went to overtime.
That's what I mean. I thought it was 2 close ones, the
one we lost I think went to overtime. Actually. Pretty sure.
I just thought there was 2 close games, 2 Nuggets wins that weren't really that close, and then the loss.
It was something like that.
But anyway, Rudy Gobert was a part of that. So was Anthony Edwards. Like but like if that Lakers team plays that, like the Lakers win that series also, like pretty definitively
against Minnesota.
Yeah.
I'm
just trying to like say that like Jokic, just because like the on paper teams, the T-Wolves weren't as good as a team as the Warriors. They got to dodge the Warriors. That's just how the playoffs work. Mm-hmm. If that's... Then it should be... Yeah, anyway, I'm just going to keep rambling and saying stupid things.
I think the Nuggets would have beat anybody this postseason.
Yes, honestly. For sure. Like, outside of, like... I thought that, like...
Milwaukee, maybe?
A healthy Milwaukee would have been a good run for them. But
I don't think that Nuggets shouldn't... Like, I don't think the Bucks should be heavy favorites in a series like that at all.
No, that's a close one. They go 6 or 7.
Yeah.
I put the Celtics in the same thing if they... looked like I thought they would have, honestly. But I think the Nuggets were the best team this year and they won.
Yeah.
You can't ask for a better pin up to a season than that.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, the finals series itself was, you don't say anticlimactic because they gave us, but like, that's just how the cookie crumbled and the best team won.
Yeah.
What else did people want?
How it was anticlimactic. People saying that this series is so boring. Apparently it beat out the, last year's finals in terms of ratings. The Celtics and Warriors.
Giant markets of Boston and Warriors. Stupid.
They are giant markets, but like it's crazy. Apparently, and I think my theory is at least all of the neutral fans, like all the people that aren't fans of either team, were probably more engaged or more interested in Nuggets Heat matchup than they were Golden State Celtics matchup, because I feel like maybe a lot of other people that are neutral fans, they have like a natural distaste for always seeing the Warriors on or always seeing the Celtics on. And they're like, oh, somebody new. Like, I don't ever see anything about the Nuggets or the Heat. And so they're watching that instead. I don't know if that's the reason why, but so there's some reason why, because I don't know why else that we would have beat the Nuggets and the Heat matchup would have beat the Warriors and Celtics matchup in terms of ratings.
No, it's definitely the Warriors are like if this was a 2016 final Celtics Warriors, it's way different.
Or here's the thing. Is it Jokic? Do people like Jokic a lot? Is that what we're finding out right now? That the world, like Jokic is a very marketable superstar?
I feel like he always has been. I don't. Is it people not know that?
No. The league has always acted like that's the opposite. Like they've gone out of their way to not market him because
in his play style, he doesn't do these things that's going to be on. Like he does some, but he's never doing it. It's like, wow, he just threw that ball 100 foot perfectly, exactly where we wanted to. That's pretty cool. But it's not football; it's basketball.
Yeah, like so that's why they think they can't market him, but they're wrong. I think that they were wrong.
My favorite thing though is everybody's really like this weird Jokic like shuffled and fling it over his head and it goes in.
Sunboard shuffle.
But everybody was having these like conniptions of like, how does this go in? Why? And I'm like, it happens kind of a lot.
It does.
It can't be an accident. Like he has some sort of thing in his brain that just makes it work.
That's the thing. People saying that it was an accident. Yeah, it's just I don't know. It surprises me so much how this guy has won 2 MVPs and probably should have won a third. And you guys still weren't watching him this whole time? Because if you just watch it like a steady diet of Jokic, you would see that happen like once a month at least. If you
I would say more than that. Like
like you're not watching every game, so just every once in a while you're watching a national televised game. You'll see that happen. He shoots shots like that. Like he's one of the best. Like I've said this for years that he's one of the best. Like I guess I'll shoot it. Like the shot clock is about to hit 0. I'll just throw this up. Like he's one of the best, like those kind of shots makers I've ever seen. It just goes in and he does it consistently. And he said even in interviews before that that's his favorite type of shots to shoot because there's not like, he doesn't have to think about it. He doesn't have a choice. He has to shoot it. So it's like, you have nothing to lose basically. He just has to shoot it. Which I can relate to because I feel like I get in my head a lot when I play sports. And like whenever I shut my brain off where I'm like, I just have to take the shot that nobody's expecting to go in. Like those are sometimes my like best shots. So me and Jokic are the same person is what I'm trying to say.
Believable.
But I love me some Jokic. I love that 30, 14, and 10. Just think about that. That's what he averaged on the whole playoffs. 30, 14, and 10.
It's pretty good.
Yeah, and he did it on like good efficiency for anybody else. It was 54%, but if you're comparing that to what he did this regular season, that's
terrible.
Yeah, it's like pedestrian numbers because he shot 63% from the field in the regular season.
That's crazy. That's wild. But
yeah, okay. So that's basically all I wanted to say. I guess I'll. Game 5. It was rough. But we won it. Jokic, even though it was rough for everybody else, which, that was one tidbit I forgot to mention that I do want to mention is this was the worst 3-point shooting game that any winning team in a playoff game has ever had in game 5 of the NBA Finals. We shot 13% from 3. I think we shot only 6 or 7% in the first half. But yeah, that's pretty insane. But Jokic was the only person that had like an efficient stat line. Everybody else was under 50%, under 40%, something like that. Jokic shot 12 of 16 and scored 28 points with 16 rebounds, 4 assists. And if you watch that game again, he should have had at least double-digit assists. But how many shots we were missing? He only ended up with 4. So that I think will be today's episode. It was all over the place, but hopefully you enjoy it. Happy to have Jacob back doing this again. We want to continue to do this throughout the off season every week. The draft, which is normally our favorite time of the year, it kind of feels weird this year because of my Nuggets have just won the title. But that is like very, very soon, like scary soon.
We'll do a draft spectacular.
Yeah, it might be after the draft. It might be before. It might be during. I don't know.
You might get it after, but we'll give you our opinions as they come because I think we could have a crazy draft night when it comes to the teams that are currently in the places they are at. I'm not sure we'll end up there. So
yeah, for sure,
it could be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that is Thursday, June 22nd. So this coming Thursday. So I don't know when we'll record next. It might be before next weekend. So be looking out for that. Thank you for listening. Do all the stuff I said at the beginning, and stay happy, stay healthy. We will talk to you guys next episode.
Peace.